Welcome to another conversation off the clock. Hi, I'm Carmina Constantino Torres and this is Casey After Hours.
Ang ayuda, may kulay. Hindi lahat nasasama sa listahan.
I really do hope na there's always going to be a balance in our politics and government it being naive at this point.
Now I feel bad about what I'm about to say, di ba?
Mahirap ang buhay, di ba? We need to help correct the system.
Kasi yung let me educate you sa Pilipinas, sa kandidato, hindi yan gumagana.
Are they going to exploit it? Or are they going to do something about it?
Pag ang politiko nagbigay sa'yo ng pera, pera mo yan.
Knowing what you know, I mean, you've been here. I mean, you know the game like the back of your hand, right? What can you tell me? 3 red flags, Malyn, for the Filipino voter, knowing that it's just days before the May 2025 elections. What are the 3 red flags that they should look out for? To vote wisely. Yan naman ang parating paalala, hindi ba? But what does this reminder really entail? It's often been said that the people hold the power through our votes. Pero ang kapangyarihang ito maaring nalulustay lamang sa paniniwala sa maling impormasyon, sa pagpapadala sa mga pag-indak, pagpapatawa, isama na rin ang pagkanta. Sayang, hindi ba? Throwing away our country's future by putting into office those whose loyalty are only either to one person, one family, their pockets, themselves. Paano nga ba tayo makakasigurong taumbayan ang panalo sa pagboto? These are the questions we need to confront boldly, urgently, each time election day draws near. And to help us make sense of it all, joining us today are Malyn Molina, President and COO of the Ion Group, and Allan German, veteran political communication strategist. Allan German, veteran campaign strategist.
Hey, that's me. I suppose if she's called it so, then it is so. Right.
I can call you many other names.
Right, but thanks for having me.
But I won't do it. Malyn from Ion Group. Malyn Molina, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Very interesting discussion. Eleksyon ang pag-uusapan natin. But before we get into that, I want you to introduce yourselves to our viewers. Who are you and what do you do?
I'm Malyn Molina. I think sa conversation na to, I will be more of a spectator. You know, be interesting to be listening. But yeah, I'm the president of Ion Group. Ion Group is a consultancy firm focused on strategic communication and stakeholder relations.
To be very candid about it, you are not into the election.
Yes. Most of our clients or that we consult with private sector and also multilateral, so it's still also very interesting kasi we do look into public and government affairs, policies that will impact the Filipinos, anything that's also to do with the private sector. So yes, wala akong alam sa election, I mean, or at least we never handled any election or campaigning, but we've always been monitoring what's of interest to the Filipinos.
So kung baga, kami ni Allan nandito. Tapos kayo nandito, tinitingnan nyo lang, how the conversations are shaping up.
Yes.
What's the communication strategy that's being used and all that.
Yeah.
Which brings us to Allan German here,
So
talking
from the light
about the
side of the
strategy.
force, we go to the dark side of the force. Joke lang. I'm Allan German. I'm the president of Agents International. We call ourselves persuasion specialists. Wow.
Heavy.
That alone is a strategy.
There you go. It used to be, people often say we're public relations and communications consultants, but we decided to sharpen the tip, as it were, of the spear, because at the end of the day, what we really intend to do is persuade. So we do have corporate clients, but we made our bones more in the political arena. At least we're more well known for that. We have a metric called CVI in the Philippines. That's candidates voted in. Allow me to joust with humility now, Carmina, and totally kill it. In terms of CVI, our agency is the number 1 candidates voted in agency in the Philippines. I don't really see anybody in a rearview mirror. There you go, I did it.
Which is why you're here.
Which
is why we invited you. But first, you talk about persuasion, right? Sino ba ang pino-persuade? Sino ba ang hinihimok ng mga katulad ni Allan German, kundi ang botante? I do want to ask, from where you sit, how would you describe what the Filipino voter is today? Malyn, ikaw muna. Ano ba ang nakikita mo? paano mo ilalarawan kung ano ang botanteng Pilipino ngayon?
We've been seeing in the news na more and more, especially the younger generation, yung mga mas bata, that they say platform before personalities. Then may maririnig ka rin na kailangan daw natin i-educate ang voters natin. But we've been talking about voter education for the longest time and still we see the same results. So I think I want to go a little deeper and maybe take a page from Allan and use our own personal study. So we have the Philippine Trust Study that looks into the sentiments of Filipinos as well as the things that they look for to trust institutions.
Right.
That includes government. So may it be from the executive or the politician. So sa Filipino ngayon na nakikita namin, yung result ng data namin is the Filipinos is actually in a survival mode.
Grabe.
Right?
Lungkot.
Ramdam natin yung hirap. Sabi nga nila, kahit daw yung mga dati na magaganda ang trabaho, kahit ngayon alam nila na parang kulang yung sinusweldo nila. So when we look at the studies, when we said Filipinos generally still very happy because I think because we are
Socio-culturally wired to be happy.
Parang ano tayo collectivist tayo. So maganda yung connection natin, pero they wanted better salary. They wanted better social services, so things that they get from government services, and then they also want the better things in life, di ba? May it be na, magkakasama sila sa Pilipinas versus umaalis ang pamilya nila para lang magkaroon ng magandang trabaho, makakain ng maayos, magkaroon ng mga bagay-bagay na i-improve ng buhay ng pamilya nila.
So nandyan sila ngayon. We are all on survival mode.
Yes.
Is that what you see as well? At yun ba do you strategize around that, or do you see it as, okay, this is a jumping point?
Right. Well, you put it very, very perfectly. No? Survival mode, ramdam ng Pilipino yung hirap. And that comes out. Even in our own examinations, lumalabas yan. So I'll answer that question in two levels. Next. First is, anong tingin ko sa botanteng Pilipino? Cyclical tayo. Hindi yan lalabas dun sa tinatawag nating AIM. Ang botanteng Pilipino, there's only 3 ways to motivate them. AIM. Alert, inspire, or motivate. At nagsacycle yan. So what is alert? Takutin mo para bumoto sa'yo. Pag hindi ninyo ako binoto, ang Pilipinas magiging drug state. Pag hindi ninyo ako binoto, hindi natataas ang sweldo ninyo. Pag hindi ninyo ako binoto, yung magulang mo, yung mga kapatid mo, marirape, ma-hold up sa jeepney. Sound familiar?
Yes.
And then they will vote for you. So
Okay.
alert yan, alert. The next is inspire, something greater than you. You're hoping for an abstract. Daang matuwid. Gobyernong tapat. Love for family. Yan, inspire messaging yan. And then the last is motivate. Iboto mo ko, madadagdagan ng 1,000 ang sweldo mo.
Okay.
Short-term action, short-term gain. So, based on that study, we are definitely squarely in the alert and motivate. Era. Yung inspire messaging, pag nag-inspire messaging ka ngayon in this climate, hindi ka mananalo. If you're talking about good governance, sakit man aminin, kasi yun ang kailangan ng Pilipinas. Pero pragmatically, pag ako nilapitan ng kliyente at sabihin, ang gusto kong gawin, linisin ang gobyerno. At yan ang aking tagline and campaign anchor. Linisin ang gobyerno. Hindi tayo pwede dyan. Kailangan either we deepen it or we change it entirely to conform to the alert and the motivate. But there's a but naman. But what are we seeing with the Filipino voters? We're seeing a connection on the local level. On the local level, we're beginning to look for solutions. Bakit? Ang lapit sa bituka eh. Nakikita mo araw-araw.
Yeah.
Yung kalsada sa labas, bako-bako. Pag inon mo yung gripo, walang gripo. Yung grocery mong 1,000, grabe dati, 3 supot. Ngayon, isang supot na lang. Ano pa? Cardboard
yung
pa. Maliit pa. Papel pa yung supot, di ba? So you're seeing that's so guttural. Gut issue yan. So now, you're thinking on the local level, si Mayor dapat maayos yung ilaw, si Mayor dapat maano. That's why we're seeing the emergence on the local level of what we might call non-trapo candidates.
Yeah. But then, Allan and Malyn, we're also in this Ayuda era. That's I think, an iteration of patronage politics, or another ugly face of patronage politics.
Manifestation, perhaps the best manifestation of.
Right. So, yung AIM na sinasabi mo, ilagay mo yung patronage politics,
That's it.
Does it muddle the issue even more? Does it just all boil down to, because we're on survival mode, kakapit na lang tayo doon sa kung sinong magsasalba sa atin from this guttural environment that we have now? Malyn?
Pwede, pero kasi I think to support what you've said, we also see na mas mataas talaga ang tiwala ng Pilipino sa local government.
Tama yan.
Kasi konkreto talaga eh. Talagang ramdam nila yung ginagawa mo. So kahit may ayuda or what we call patronage election and politics, maybe sa election, kasi kung makukuha ko to, 3,000, baka malaki ang marating nito sa grocery ko, di ba? Pero after that 3 years, yung 3 years, ano yung consistency? Which is why they said, di ba? Parang,
Yes.
okay, maayos ba talaga, nagkakaroon ba ako ng mas magandang trabaho ngayon? Kasi mga businesses pumapasok sa probinsya namin, pumapasok sa city namin. So maybe there's always going to be a good combination na, tanggapin natin ang Filipino oo ngayon sa madali kasi kailangan nila. Pero sana nga, magkaroon din tayo ng pagkakataon na we look at the long term, the consistency of the service.
Nasa motivate tayo ngayon, di ba? Nanggaling actually tayo dun sa Inspire. During Pinoy's time, it was daang matuwid. It was, kung walang korap, walang mahirap. So it was very squarely inspired. So cyclical naman yan. So to Malyn's point, sana bumalik tayo doon. Sana bumalik tayo to messaging that is inspired. But in terms of patronage politics, unfortunately, the ayuda system can't be beat. And the pandemic, I don't want to say spoiled, but predisposed us to it. Ayoko ang gamitin yung word na mendicancy, Carmina, baka makancel ako, di ba? Pero it's really the culture of mendicancy, dahil kung tambay ka, hindi ka naman naghahanap buhay, hindi ka naman ang laki na nakukuha mo as long as you align. Kasi, aminin naman natin, the elephant in the room is, ang ayuda, may kulay. Hindi lahat nasasama sa listahan. So, yung dating equity of the incumbent na 7%, siguro ngayon nasa 11% na ang equity of the incumbent in local elections because of ayuda.
So, yun na nga yung point ko. Kaya anumang point na dun sa cycle na kung nasan tayo ngayon, alert, inspire, or motivate man yan, pag pinasukan mo naman ng ayuda behavior, dun pa rin ba patungo? Parang yun na lang ba talaga kung saan tayo makakakuha ng ginhawa right here, right now, then that's what we're gonna vote for. Kasi sasamahan mo pa ng utang na loob, which is very, very, diba?
Pinoy di ba?
Yeah, may mga values talaga tayo nga na, sino yung, hindi naman dahil sa sino yung kapamilya mo, pero sino yung may relasyon ka. Kasi
saan ka malapit?
Kasi again, with the survival mode, maabilidad ng Filipino eh. So, paano nga ba? If I don't trust the system, then how could I make the system work for me? So, minsan, iniisip natin yung proximity natin to that system. Kaya, minsan, kailangan kakilala mo o mas nalalapitan si mayor. So, may mga ganun ang pagkakataon hindi natin may ikutan. Pero, nakikita din naman natin na they're trying to be as more intelligent now. Meaning, Pilipino din kasi masikap din naman yan kasi nga gusto nilang guminhawa buhay nila. So kung ano man yung madali ngayon, pero hindi naman nila din iisipin na, okay, hanggang dito na lang. Pagtatrabahuhan nila yan. So, I really do hope na there's always going to be a balance in our politics and government it being naive at this point.
Now I feel bad about what I'm about to say, di ba? I'm gonna throw a wrench into that whole idealism, which I share, by the way. Ang problema kasi, may uncanny valley rin yan. Okay, what do I mean by the uncanny valley? Ang ayuda kasi, ang Pilipino, meron din ugali na naiinsulto. Pag ang Pinoy, binigyan mo ng...
complex.
Yeah, very complex. Pag binigyan mo yan ng 20, sasabihin nila, ano akala mo sa akin? 20 lang, makukuha mo yung boto ko. May ganon. And they will rebel against it, di ba? Ito, hindi ko ito bobotohin. Ang liit. So, instead of correcting the institutional problem, which is, huwag ka dapat tumanggap in the first place.
Yeah.
Anong ginagawa ng politiko? Tinataasan lang yung ayuda. So, bumabaha ng pera. Because they're also aware of that sensibility of the Pinoy na hindi mo pwedeng abutan niya ng 20-20, 50-50 na sandwich. Kailangan medyo may taas.
Tama rin naman kasi nakikita rin naman namin na ini-expect ng Pilipino, konting respeto.
Respeto.
Yeah, respeto. Yun nga lang, I think kailangan natin i-correct kung ano yung pinaka-baseline ng respeto. Diba?
Yung tinatawag nilang bobotante, people use it. like it's the truth.
Yes.
Kayo ba naniniwala sa terminolohiyang mayroon nga at maraming bobotante?
I've never supported that terminology. Kasi parang very simplistic na parang okay, maybe this is the time where we say check our privilege. 'Di ba na iba-iba yung pundasyon kung bakit kailangan magdesisyon ng Pilipino kung sino yung iboboto nila, sino yung ilalagay nila sa pwesto. Iba-iba ang pinagdadaanan natin. Ibig sabihin lang hindi natin alam ang nangyayari sa on ground, 'di ba? Na parang mahirap ang buhay, 'di ba? We need to help correct the system. I don't think just simply tagging them as such solves the problem. Right? Kaya sabi nga natin, voter education. Saan narating yung voter education natin? Kung yung bobotante lang pala ang problema natin, maraming problema ang society natin. Maraming kailangang ayusin sa Pilipinas.
It's so reductive. Yung pag sinabi mong bobotante, reductive yan. I-define natin yung bobo. Ang sabi ni Albert Einstein, di ba, the definition of insanity or stupidity is doing the same thing over and over
again
and expecting a different result. So, sino ba ang bobo dito? Yung kandidatong ayaw mag-adjust and will just slip back into the comfort of using that reductive term. Kaya hindi ako nanalo dahil bobotante ang mga yan. Or is it the candidate himself na bobo? Dahil instead of trying to raise the people to where he is, he should maybe go down to where they are. And I'm not saying it's up or down, maybe lateral yan. Para hindi naman ako masyadong elitista. Kasi yung let me educate you sa Pilipinas, sa kandidato, hindi yan gumagana. Learn their hearts, learn their lives, learn their minds and their communities. Alamin natin, bago natin sila tawagin mo botante.
I'm glad we hearted the same thought. Diba? And we're gonna spread it around. Kasi I feel like every time I hear it, it lacks empathy.
Absolutely.
It lacks looking, as you correctly pointed out, it lacks looking at where that vote came from to begin with.
Yeah.
It's lazy.
Diba? Hindi mo inintindi.
It's lazy.
Yun na nga ang naging problema natin dito sa bansang ito.
Kanya-kanya.
Nagkukulang sa pag-iintindi. Nauuna yung pag-judge.
Correct.
Let's go into the candidates. We've discussed the Filipino voter. That's clear. Let's go into your turf now, the candidates. Do they know very well that this is exactly where the Filipino voter is at? And therefore, dalawang bagay lang yan. Are they going to exploit it? Or are they going to do something about it?
Well, I don't want to say exploit, but maybe they're adjusting. So to your first question, do they know it? Absolutely. The data science behind elections now is, wow, what a time to be alive. I love it. Malyn, you also understand in terms of consumerism, in terms of choice, in terms of order of attribute preference. The data is so rich. The data is so contextualized. So ang sarap maging campaign strategist ngayon kasi you're armed with so much data. And the candidates, this data is shared, and thankfully, naniniwala naman sila. So we're seeing it in some national elections, some candidates, perhaps before, I won't mention any names, that used to campaign on a more heady, inspire messaging, and medyo elitista yung dating nila. Ngayon, medyo they're open to umbrella coalitions and having different local officials be endorsing them. Ayan na, I'm getting into...
Parang nakikita ko na. Parang klaro na sa akin.
Diba? Tapos yung mga issues nila, gut issues, yung tinatawag natin helps. Diba? Yung health.
No, but here's a question, Allan. Forgive me for cutting you off.
Of course.
Okay, so you know that that's it, and
Yes.
they're going to adjust.
Yes.
But that's one thing, like adjusting to get the votes. Pero iba din yung nag-a-adjust ka, pero ikaw naman talaga kasi yon.
Correct.
You get it?
Correct.
Kasi otherwise, it's just going to be,
Cosmetic.
and just for the electoral victory, not really listening and being empathetic to the voters and really going to do something about their plight once you win. Iba
Correct.
yon. So anong ginagawa nyo?
Okay. Ako, honestly, 50-50 siguro yung mga kandidatong hawak ko. I won't be glib about it. 50% I see that there's a genuine need and desire and want to absorb the data, to really internalize it and empathize. So maybe 50% of my clients are like that. The other 50, aaminin ko, is this what we need to win? Ano yan? Pareto efficiency. Ito yung pinaka-efficient way para manalo tayo. Sige, gawin natin yan.
Is there some sort of like, okay, your client wins, right?
Right.
And it was 50-50. But it was more like a 70-30.
Sure,
that,
yeah.
You know, it was more the other than the latter. Once the client wins, is there sort of guilt there somehow that you're part of the problem?
On my end, I can't honestly think of a time when a candidate or a client won and then I felt guilty about it, like, oh my gosh, did I actually help this person and this person stealing or salbahe pala tong kandidato na to, because thankfully we have the blessing of being able to choose our clients prior to that.
Okay, pero nangyayari ba na parang may kirot ng kaunti kasi pinasayaw ko, pinaindak ko, kung anong pinagawa ko just to win, to win, and it contributed to this whole culture of paligayahin mo lang yung botante, okay na.
I hate to be that mercenary. I don't mean to sound mercenary, or I don't mean to sound like my moral compass is non-existent. But the truth is, my job is to make you win.
Yep. That's
my job. I don't know if I can say the word asses in seats. My job is to put the asses in the seats. How do you keep the asses in the seats? That's up to you, and that's where performance comes in. Gawin mo yung trabaho mo. Pinanalo na kita gawin mo ng tama yung trabaho mo.
Naniningil ka ba after? Hindi yung TF mo ha, pero naniningil.
I do this for
I
do this for love of country. My goodness.
Naniningil ka ba after na parang teka lang ha?
Yes, naniningil ako in that sense.
Oo, teka lang ha. This is not what we talked about.
Yes. Kasi PR, tatlo yan, di ba? Public relations, alam na natin yon. Pero yung PR, ano rin yan perception and reality. Ako gagawa ng perception. Pero yung reality, dapat tapatan mo.
Okay.
Yung ginawa akong perception para sa kandidato, kailangan tapatan mo yung reality. The last PR is performance and recognition. Hindi pwedeng puro si Allan lang. Recognition. Kailangan mag-perform ka rin.
Malyn, from where you sit, kayong nandyan sa Ion Group, nakikita yung mga ginagawa ni Allan. Is there ever a point when, you're like already cringing and you're like, wala kayong magawa because you're not part of it, diba? Parang, dito nyo dalhin, wag dyan. May mga ganun ba kayo?
May mga pagkakataon na ganun. Pero naiintindihan ko naman, diba, asses in the seat. Parang naiintindihan ko nung sinabi nilang, ipanalo mo muna.
Yes.
Get the seat, get that your seat on the table, then change the world.
Hold that thought. Willie Revillame. Bigyan
ng jacket.
You know that soundbite, right?
Yes.
He was being asked, and then he said, hindi pa ako nananalo. Tsaka na natin pag-usapan yan pag nanalo na ako. I'm paraphrasing the man now, but
that's not what I mean.
Okay, that's okay. I wanted to be sure if that's what you meant. Okay, go ahead.
In essence lang nga yung parang, 'di ba, batas versus budots, 'di ba? Yung what's your platform versus bago ka sumayaw diyan. May mga times kasi na ang Filipino nga gusto na lang minsan ma-entertain. I mean, unfortunately, even at elections, 'di ba? Distraction talaga para lang, masaya, marami na akong desisyon na kailangan kong gawin at isipin sa araw-araw, sa every minute ng buhay ko. Ang ibig sabihin ko lang that there are certain things na sabi nga nila, too much principle and you feel like you're so above it, what will happen? Yung ibig ko sabihin na win, then change the world, right? You still do have to have a point of view. Kailangan kilala ka pa rin nila kung ano yung gusto, yung ano ipapangako mong, performance. Kasi nga, manalo ka ngayon, makakaulit ka ba? Pag hindi mo ginawa yung kailangan mo. Yun siguro yung paniningil din, di ba? You got my help now, you don't make good of your word, then 3 taon lang naman ng 3 taon ng election natin It's just that right now, we also cannot afford it. Ang bilis ng mundo, ang dami ng problema. So we really need to get at it. Pero not to say naman that the Philippines not doing well at certain point, may mga improvement.
Pwede bang dumating sa panahon na hindi na kailangan mag-strategize because the candidate himself or herself is enough? The principles that person stand for, the advocacies, the agenda. Nadating ba tayo sa puntong ganun?
It's very idealistic. I support that ideology. I wish it would come. But, and Malyn will back me up on this, I hope. Ang botante, consumer pa rin yan. And for as long as consumers vary in taste, vary in order of attribute preferences, vary in their trends, in terms of their psychology, I think that the practice is safe.
Yeah.
So yes, you'll still be seeing me around. You'll still be seeing me around. You can't get rid of me that easily.
Of course. I just wanted to hear that from you. Rebranding. Let's talk about that. It's different when you talk about strategy and the narratives and the tactics. Rebranding is another thing. Right? Have you ever done that? And why was there a rebrand? Is it completely 180?
There's a very famous story about the head of a very large LGU who measurably during the pandemic was the most hated mayor. Sasabihin ko na, she was the most hated mayor in the Philippines. Sinusukat namin yan. There's actually an index that you use to measure dislike and preference. So she was the most disliked mayor during the pandemic. Ang daming negative memes na lumalabas sa kanya. Siguro alam niyo na siguro kung sino pinag-uusapan natin. But this mayor, the thing that makes her so special is, as I discussed earlier, yung PR, yung performance niya talagang hindi nagkukulang. Yung achievements niya hindi nagkukulang. Napakasipag, napakagaling. Hindi lang nakakascade, hindi lang nako-communicate properly. So I remember a very nice conversation I had with this mayor and I said, "You're probably the easiest client I will ever have. Because all I need to do is take you and communicate that. How much of a worker you are, how much of a solutions-oriented person you are, how much you really care for your constituents. Ibahin lang natin baliin lang natin ito, and first thing we do is mag-bunker mode ka muna sa social media. I'm going to take away all of your social media accounts, etc., etc." Not to toot my own horn or to bang my own drum, but a year later, she is now the most loved mayor.
And she's on her way to win her third term?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Parang hindi, kulang na lang. Sinabi, tatlong letra lang naman.
Unchallenged.
What do you think about that? The rebrand and...
Well, we are in this industry doing us that, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, tama naman kasi, even in, private CEOs, private leaders, one of the things that is being expected is to, pwede pa nga, is not just communicate, but over-communicate. Right? Kasi kailangan makita ng tao kung yung vision mo. Minsan kailangan din makita na yung mga ginawa mo, may rason doon, mahirap man, kasi leaders need to make those hard decisions.
Right. But when we talk about rebrand, hindi ito yung ampaw, ha? Hindi ito yung you just conjure something up that is entirely not that person.
Yes.
Yeah.
There has to be something there to begin with.
Definitely
Go
naman.
ahead.
Kasi, ang hinahanap din kasi ng mga tao is to understand ano yung personality mo. Yung parang ano ka sa tao. Ganun nga, di ba? Minsan sinasabi ko rin, may nagtanong, what do we do? Because we didn't do pero some other consultants. Sabi ko, wala kasing personality ikaw in social. They don't really know what you represent, who you are. Exactly. Yung parang artistahin ka lang ba or what? So, people would need to be able to relate to you.
Okay.
Diba? Kasi ganoon naman talaga. Everywhere, we said, everyone has to have a connection. So, that's the rebrand, so to speak. Show what you stand for. That's part of a rebrand, diba? So, hindi lang yung performance, really, ano yung prinsipyo na pinanggagalingan ng lahat ng decision mo.
Okay. From the candidate who's been there for quite a while, let's talk about new faces. Posible ba na magkaroon ng bagong mukha sa politika na may prinsipyo paninindigan pero walang popularidad?
Absolutely. We're seeing it on the local level. Again, sa local level, ang hinahanap ng tao, solusyon. National level, ang layo, distraction.
Yeah.
So, I always use that analogy of the jeepney driver. I think Malyn alluded to it earlier. Ang dami mo iniisip, pagod na pagod ka, uuwi ka, makikita mo yung kalsada mo, bako-bako, yung ilaw mo, walang sinde, and your water doesn't work. You're gonna think mayor. But when you switch on the TV, there's two candidates for national. A senatorial candidate is presenting his or her platform. And on the other channel, the senatorial candidate is dancing with the gorilla and the sexy lady. You've just had 8 hours on the road, you're tired.
16 sometimes.
16, what will you do? You'll watch the dancing gorilla. National. Pero local, iisipin mo, si Mayor kailangan, ayusin na yan, si Mayor kailangan. So we're seeing it on the local level. We're seeing a lot of candidates who are not traditional politicians, not they don't do the same, the what we call dean campaigning, delight, entertain, amuse, and make noise. They don't do the dean campaigning, and yet they're gaining popularity on the local level. Sana umangat. Sana sa national level.
There are more than a couple of names in the senatorial preferential surveys that have been rolled out, no? And these names have been silent since the campaign period started. Ang tanong nung iba, bakit nandyan yan? Wala tayong nariringgan mula sa kanila, and yet they're there in the winner's circle. How do you explain that?
Because election is an addition. You know, at the end of the day, merong information na manggagaling from national, pero iba rin naman yung kung may kumakampanya sa'yo sa baba. So that's why sometimes, you know, understanding how local and national politics work will have to be something that's very critical for you. Kasi, you know, the movements on the ground is still dictated by local. So, yung iba rin naman, by association. Wala ka naririnig, pero malakas yung asosasyon. So, they're in the winner's circle.
Would you advise that kind of a candidate to just not talk? Total, andyan ka na eh.
Less talk, less mistakes. Absolutely. Pag 8 and up. Pag 8 and up, if it isn't broken, don't fix it.
Pero hindi ba yan? Hindi ba the voters need more? I mean, deserve more.
Deserve more. Maybe not need more, but they deserve more.
Deserve more.
I agree.
Ba't ka nandyan? Patunayan mo sa amin kung ba't ka nandyan.
Bakit nga, Casey? No, I will use a term siguro that...
Alan kasi!
Ako yun, hindi po ako yan. Siguro, riffing off Malyn sa answer, no? Maybe using a term that would be closer to our hearts collectively. Malakas ang legacy, loyalty ng Pilipino. Nakasanayan na eh. Ito na yung sabon na ginagamit ni Lola at ginagamit ni Nanay, ginagamit ni Kuya. So pagpunta mo sa grocery, hindi ka natitingin ng ibang sabon. Ito na eh. Nakasanayan na eh. It's almost muscle memory. The same unfortunately goes with voters. Ay, sanay na ako eh. Every time tumatakbo to, binoboto ko to eh. There's a senator that, quite frankly, I won't name names obviously, but there's a senator, quite frankly, that at any given time, I don't know kung nasa Senado siya o hindi. Senator ba yan? Ay, yung nga pala. Then you'll have to do the math in your head. Hindi kasi tumakbo yan nung tapos nanalo, pero nakaupo pa ba yan ngayon?
And then you say, dyan pa pala siya.
Dyan pa pala siya.
Dyan pa pala siya.
Yeah.
Okay,
Iba rin
so...
kasi yung longevity. Kasi di ba yung familiarity ng Pilipino, yun, legacy nga. Because halimbawa, hindi naman lahat ng parte ng Pilipinas naabot ng, you know, general information, di ba? So, paano yung familiarity? Sino yung makikilala nila? Sino lang yung nababasa nila? Hindi naman tamang may social media ba yan? Hindi palaging may TV. So, sino yung kilala mo? At yung really, yung longevity has an element of it of trust. Eh, matagal na siya dun eh. Siguro naman may rason kung ba't matagal ko nang naririnig yung pangalan na yan.
Obviously, pinipili pa rin ng tao. So, it's a combination of muscle memory, bandwagon, it's all of those factors.
So now we go to the red flags, right? Kung ganyan ang sitwasyon, is that a red flag?
Absolutely a red flag. Absolutely a red flag. That's why we always have the orcs, diba? Old familiars, relatives, and celebrities. Parating yan na nananalo sa Pilipinas because of that familiarity. Kasi sino bang kakilala ng Pinoy? The old familiars, their relatives, dahil pareho yung pangalan, and the celebrities.
So ano sasabihin mo sa botante?
May anim ka lang na gustong-gusto mo, and then mamimili ka ng ilan ba ngayon ng choices. Tapos makikita mo, ito naaalala ko tong pangalan na to. Check. Diba?
Okay, but you know, we're having this conversation a few days before May 12, 2025, right? When you talk about red flags, pwede ba nila isipin ngayon na okay, in the latest preferential survey nandyan sila, pero red flag ba yung hindi ko naman narinig yan eh. Wala naman niyang sinabi. Pasensya na sa mga Allan German na nasa likod nila. Pero, di ba?
Pero na kaninong partido? So, maalala naman nila yung partido. So, hindi man national yung partido, sino ang partido sa local.
So, hindi siya necessarily
walang naririnig.
A trigger warning na, teka, hindi naman.
Kasi ang botante, pagka kulang na siya ng ilalagay, titingnan niya na ngayon, sino ba yung sinusuportahan ni Mayor?
Actually, barangay captain
barangay captain
is the strongest influencer for votes. For national, it's 70-30. 70 is retail, 30% is makinarya. Yung sinasabi ni Malyn na sino bang sinusuportahan ni barangay captain, ni mayor, that's 30% of the vote. Okay. 70% is still retail.
All right.
Pag national, pag local, baliktad.
Okay. Knowing what you know, I mean, you've been here, I mean, you know the game like the back of your hand, right? What can you tell me? 3 red flags, Malyn, for the Filipino voter, knowing that it's just days before the May 2025 elections, what are the 3 red flags that they should look out for?
Sa akin, I think, yung red flag, at least man lang, is yung isipin nga natin na ano ba yung dapat na role na that they have to do, di ba? Parang sabi nila, 3 parts ng government, may executive, may legislative, may judiciary. So on legislative, yung mga politiko na binoboto natin, ano ang dapat ginagawa nila? Alam ba nila ang batas? Kasi dapat yun ang ginagawa nila. Bumubuo sila ng batas. Para saan ang batas? Ano ang kailangan natin as Pilipino? We are food insecure, we are environmentally insecure, socially insecure. Ano yung mga kailangan natin to have a better secured life? So sana, yun ang isipin nila. So pag wala ka man lang plataforma o hindi mo alam kung ano ang tama sa batas, dapat iniisip mo na yon.
Pinapasaya niya ako eh.
Gwapo siya eh.
Oo, gwapo siya. Pinapasaya niya ako. Ang
Okay siya
ganda ng mga pelikula niya.
Madadalam ba yung ganda niya pag gutom ka nang natutulog? Sana maalala ng mga Pilipino yon, yung things that they need to do for themselves and for their family. So yon. So yung pangalawang red flag is yun nga, sana consistency. Kung iboboto mo yung dati nang nasa posisyon, isipin mo man lang, yes, ngayon may binigay sa'yo, pero, di ba yung binigay sa'yo, mga 2 buwan lang yun kasi nangampanya. Ano yung ginawa niya in the last 3 years? Ano yung naaalala ko nung matagal-tagal na sila sa posisyon? So, kailangan isipin din natin yun na, okay, ang relasyon, hindi lang yung maliit na relasyon. Yung malaking relasyon, hindi lang yung pang-ako, kundi pang-pamilya ko o pang-komunidad ko. So, hopefully, they also look at it na, kailangan mag-reflect man lang ako sa tagal ng posisyon na to. What have been the changes? Kasi dito ako nakatuloy, dito ako nakatira. Minimally doon. I mean, I would say na integrity, but then again, relative ang meaning ng integrity sa Pilipino. So, at the minimum lang talaga is yung pangangailangan ng Pilipino sa ikabubuti niya.
Ako siguro the lowest hanging fruit is this. The biggest red flag is kaso at conviction. Sorry, I hate to be the pedestrian guy na sobrang simple yung sagot. Pero totoo yan. Pag dati nang nagkakaso yan, at dati nang na-convict yan, o dati nang may record yan, empleyado nga, kailangan ng NBI clearance eh.
Sa bagay.
Messenger nga, kailangan ng NBI clearance eh. Ano pa yung ilalagay mong mamumuno sa'yo? Bakit biglang yung mga may piano, yung mga may mugshot, bakit nakakaupo? Paano nangyari yon? So, hindi lang red flag yan, siguro red tent yan. Red tarp, red tarpaulin yan. First. The second is cause. Bakit sila tumatakbo? Ano bang rason ba't sila tumatakbo? Ngayon, kung mapapansin mo na kaya lang pala ito tumatakbo dahil para ma-perpetuate yung dinastiya, dahil yung nanay niya, lolo niya, tatay niya, kapatid niya, nakaupo na dyan, then obviously, the cause, the why, if you wanted to be profound and woke about it. What's your why?
Pero yung nanay, yung tatay, yung lola, yung kapatid, natulungan naman kami.
Yun na nga. Pero sa akin, red flag yan. Kasi hindi ikaw si nanay, si tatay, si lolo. Diba? If your only why is because gusto mo i-perpetuate yun, then for me, red flag yan. Diba? And third, I will definitely agree with Malyn. Right man for the right job. Huwag ka pipili na, syempre pag I don't know, it's so intuitive for Filipinos. Humahanap tayo ng family driver. Sino yung pipiliin mo? Siyempre, yung marunong mag-drive at may alam sa daan. Bakit mo hinire yung family driver mo? Galing niya sumayaw eh. Hindi, may disconnect. Galing magbihis eh. This conversation never happened in the history of the Philippines. Bakit mo hinire yung narinig ko siyang mag-karaoke, galing pala kumanta, kaya hinire namin, family driver. Hindi nangyayari yan. Ba't hinire mo ba't ka nag-hire ng cook? Kasi nakita ko yung TikTok reels niya, ang galing niyang apoy. She's juggling fire. I don't know. Know the qualifications that are necessary for the job. And that's why there's a disconnect with national.
Yeah.
There's actually a study.
Yeah.
Majority of Filipinos actually don't know what a congressman does. What a vice mayor does. Hindi nila alam. Akala nila vice mayor, ano lang yan. Stand-in lang yan. Pag namatay or nagkasakit si mayor, sila yung papalit. Hindi, head ng sanggunian yan.
Oo.
Pwede niyang harangin yung mga programa ni mayor. So, it's stuff like that.
Is it oversimplifying it when I say that at the end of the day, it's a position of trust? Kanino mo ba ipagkakatiwala ang buhay mo? Karapat-dapat ba itong mga taong ito? para ipagkatiwala mo sa kanila ang buhay mo, pamilya mo, yung mga anak mo,
Kinabukasan mo.
kinabukasan.
Komunidad. Well, it's not an oversimplification at all. In fact, the study we do, and I'm sure you guys do as well, is called ATSP. Diba? Awareness, trust, satisfaction, and finally preference. So, major component in trust. Aware ba ako sa'yo? Yan, madali yon. I can make you, if I run out here in your neighborhood, Casey, and shout my name, they will be aware of me. They won't trust me. They're gonna pelt me with cans. Diba? They're gonna hate me. Diba? So, awareness yung unang-una. Trust yung susunod. So, that's how integral trust is. Satisfaction, kung nakaupo ka, may nagawa ka ba? Satisfied ba ako? Finally, preference. So, trust is a major component of that decision. Trust talaga.
Whole of society approach talaga ngayon tayo, di ba? Sabi nila, there's such a thing, yung sa study na yon, why they said, importante ang edukasyon, yung civic education, para alam nga ng Pilipino anong i-expect nila sa mga leaders nila. And definitely, trust is integral. Sabi nga is, kung walang tiwala, then a society will not function well. That's the most basic connection that we have. We need to be able to trust each other so that we allow each other to, proper communication, proper expectation, proper accountability, and all boils down to trust.
We know what the country needs at this point. I mean, as I said a while ago, you're experts in your field. Alam nyo na. Alam nating lahat kung ano ba talaga ang kailangan ng bansang to. Pero mukhang iba. Di natin alam pagdating ng Mayo 12, sasalamin ba yung resulta, masasalamin ba nito yung mga solusyon patungo dun sa kung ano talaga ang kailangan ng bayan. We don't know yet. But from the recent surveys, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think there's going to be a connection. So because there is that disconnect, at the very least, where is that balance? Do you see that balance anywhere?
It's just very interesting with this midterm election. I've never seen a midterm election that is as critical for the national election. So hindi ko alam kung dahil nandito mo tayo sa balanse or it's just but again another jump off point for the 2028. Kaya medyo hindi ko alam kung how to look at this midterm election.
Pero mukhang klaro na patungo sa 2028 ito.
Yeah. I mean, I think yun ang tinitingnan both national and local. That's why you've seen a lot of our politicians who is at least hedging because they need to know if they're gonna toe the line with the administration, what would that mean for them in 2028. So I wish that this midterm election is all about what the Filipinos need, but I'm not quite sure because parang everyone has an end of mind in mind na anong mangyayari sa 2028 ko.
Siguro let's differentiate the needs from the wants. What does the country need? In my opinion, I think we need to learn how to fish. We need sustainable development, sustainable growth, sustainable being the key word.
Self-sufficient.
Diba? Self-sufficiency. We need to learn how to fish. But what do the people, the voters want? They want the fish. And guess what? Looking at and I hate to be that guy, but if you look at the current top performing senatorial candidates right now, these are the guys that will give a fish. Ibibigay nila yung gusto ng Pilipino. These are the guys that will give the handouts and the doleouts, not necessarily teach them how to fish. So, nandun pa lang tayo sa want, sana mag-translate to need. Kasi ang kailangan talaga ng Pilipino, long-term sustainable approach. Hindi po magbabago ang buhay natin sa mga nakikinig sa isang halalan. You can even if by some miracle we install the best leaders, it will not change overnight. This is a process, it's a marathon, it will take time. But that's what we need. But right now, the Filipinos want the fish.
But are you guys hopeful? Because I am. Because I understand the problems, yes. But the solutions are there. And I'm not about to give up. Are you of the same mind? Pero Allan,
I'm very hopeful with what's happening with local. Actually, ngayon ko nakikita yung trend. Sa local, nagkakaroon ng turnaround. I'm loving it. I'm loving that trend. And you know what? These local candidates, saan ba sila tatalon when they... I don't want to mention names, but there are graduating mayors, for example, who have really shown the country that it can be done without the trappings of being that schmaltzy trapo politician, without necessarily flooding the streets with money. Saan ba sila tatalon? sana tumalon sila sa national and they can bring that same. So maybe in our kids' lifetime, tignan natin.
Yes, I'll always be hopeful. I mean, para sa Pilipinas, para sa bayan, di ba? We are 140 million Filipinos that I believe are hard workers, resilient. We are creative, we are smart. So, hopefully we'll get there. Hindi nga lang talaga mabilisan. That's why we said we need sustainable solutions. Unfortunately, our politics is every 3 to 6 years. So, paano masusustain yung, policies, platforms. But hopefully, one at a time.
Pero sana nga, sana yun ang dalhin ng bawat botante. Pag-asa. Dalhin ng pag-asa pagdating sa araw ng halalan. At pagkatapos nun, matutong maningil.
Tama. Singilin mo yan. And again, the false ATM, di ba? Yung ATM worship na tinatawag ko. Pag pag nagwi-withdraw ka ng pera sa ATM, you don't genuflect in front of the ATM, bow to it, throw garlands at it, and burn incense on the ATM machine. Magmumukha kang engot nun. Ginawa mo yun. At hindi mo yung ginagawa kasi pera mo yun eh. Ganon din ang politiko. Pag ang politiko nagbigay sa'yo ng pera mo yan. You don't owe them subservience, you don't owe them loyalty, you don't owe, di ba?
Sa inyo yan! Sa atin yan!
Pero may bawas pa nga minsan eh.
Dapat nga mas marami pa yan, di ba?
Kadalasan may kaltas. So, yon. In fact, sisipain mo yung ATM machine na pag nag-withdraw ka ng 400,
nireklamo, tinawag mo.
300 lang ang binigay sa'yo.
Yeah. Well, guess what, guys? Pagkatas ng eleksyon, and this I'm gonna say now, I'm gonna call you guys back again. At maniningil tayo.
Absolutely.
Tingnan natin kung sino yung nanalo and then we'll take it from there. But in the meantime, Allan German, veteran campaign strategist, and Malyn Molina of the Eon Group, thank you so much for joining us today. Sana nakatulong. Pag-asa dalin sa araw ng halalan. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks guys.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
And that's it for another episode of KC After Hours. You know the drill. Like and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.